Hurricane Florence brought historic flooding to the Carolinas. Many parts are still underwater. After each catastrophic flood, we seem to revisit the same questions about repair, recovery, and who bears the costs. Right now, federal taxpayers cover the cost of the government's National Flood Insurance Program, but it's on borrowed money and time. Lisa Fletcher has been looking into why.
Ellicott City, Maryland, a small town that traces its roots to the 17th century. Now best known for flooding repeatedly. Floods with odds of 1 in 1,000 years happen twice in just 2 years. A stretch of Main Street swept clean of cars by floodwaters that poured into buildings.
I look out, the water is raging. It's raging. I turned around and I said, "Everyone upstairs now."
Linda Jones runs a tea room and gift shop. She had just rebuilt from the 2016 flood when the flood of 2018 happened. This is video from one of her customers watching the waters rise from the second floor window. And the long path to recovery is complicated. Flood insurance is exclusively funded by the National Flood Insurance Program run by FEMA.
When you bought the tea room, did you buy flood insurance?
I did not. My insurance agent and I never discussed flood insurance. I just took over the process just like the people before me had. But they did say to me, it's too expensive, all right? So I'm like, okay, so we can't afford that. We'll just see what happens.
There are a lot of people who don't have flood insurance who really should. They think it's covered in their own homeowner's insurance policy, but homeowner's insurance does not include flood insurance.
Steve Ellis is with Taxpayers for Common Sense.
You recently called the National Flood Insurance Program dysfunctional. Why?
The program is basically takes in about $3 billion in premium revenue every year, and it's tens of billions of dollars in debt. So it's a severely underwater program that is not serving, not protecting taxpayers, it's not protecting people.
It was introduced in 1968, but even years earlier, a government task force warned that if not managed correctly, the program could become a breeding ground for waste. 50 years later, it's $20 billion in debt. Part of the problem, Ellis says, homes and businesses in high-risk areas using subsidies to rebuild, time and time again. A single home in Texas has had 22 flood insurance claims, costing $2.5 million since 1979. That's at least 8 times what the house is worth.
Having insurance in a place like Ellicott City, where we always flood, and have for years, you have to reevaluate that. This is ridiculous.
Are we encouraging risky behavior?
I'm not saying everybody in the flood insurance program is a millionaire with a beach house, but there are millionaires with beach houses in the program that are getting subsidized premiums that is costing other taxpayers. We've made it safer, at least financially, to build and develop in harm's way.
Jones now has flood insurance, but she's refusing another risky rebuild after seeing the damage to her community.
We lost 247 cars the first flood and 197 the second flood. What does that tell you? Hello? You can't keep doing this, And we lost 4 people. 4 people have died as a result of this.
Is it too much to say you would feel irresponsible rebuilding here again?
It is not too much.
Last November, Congress passed a bill to reform the National Flood Insurance Program. It would reevaluate risk, aim to get more people insured, and let private insurers get in on the game.
If it was flow from Progressive selling flood insurance rather than some exotic product from the federal government, there'd be a lot more people getting policies. When you develop the private market, there's going to be more Americans buying flood insurance.
A recent study found that about 70 to 90% of policyholders in Florida, Texas, and Louisiana could find cheaper coverage if the private sector got involved. But the House's plan for reform stalled as the Senate failed to act.
Something has to happen to sort of shock the political system. We can't afford to keep doing business as usual.
Opinion in Ellicott City is divided on whether to rebuild or relocate. Jones hopes to reopen her building on safer ground.
My greatest joy would be for them to pick up this building from 1833 and move it higher ground.
Does Hurricane Florence impact the plans for the flood insurance program?
It does not. This summer, Congress okayed a short-term extension of the program as is to get us through hurricane season. But come the end of November, we're going to do it all over again. And lawmakers are going to have to decide whether to renew, reform, or just let the program lapse entirely.
All right. Thanks, Lisa.